So the difference here on the Gr8 Nrthrn Sexcast on a very rainy end of May.
Yeah, light rain my ass.
Yeah.
Today.
What is it? I want that job. You don't have to at all come close to even getting it right.
Yeah, the percentages are just insane.
Yeah. And you know what's really funny? You know what's really even funnier is we all have radar on our telephones now. Mm-hmm. You know? But
I'm addicted to that. I'm looking at, look, a little green blob, a little yellow blob. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not 50 until next month and I'm an old fuck. I am. Because I'm so amazed by the weather.
I know. You know, and it only gets worse. Mm-hmm. It only gets worse. Pretty soon you'll have the weather radio, which should be outdated because theoretically there should be an app for that now, right? Yeah. But just get the weather radio, just kick it old school ones. Mm.
Oh, yeah. Just listen to that computer voice. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I love that.
And the shrieky thing, the sound that it makes. Oh, man. Thing goes up. Well, hello. Colleen Bertino's in the studio. Tara, hi.
Hi.
Tara, tell everybody, you've been on the show before here at the Gr8 Nrthrn Sexcast. What do you do again for Fantasy Gifts?
I am the toy buyer.
In other words, yeah, she has one. Not that everybody doesn't work their ass off, but she gets like, we should get this, we should get this, we should get this, we should get this, and that's pretty.
A little crazy.
I think what I need to do is get her the noise canceling headphones sometimes so she can work in peace.
Yeah, yeah. How did you? First of all, two things, Tara, in case they missed the last show that you were on. How did you get this job?
Colleen offered it to me when the previous buyer left. I had been around working with her for years.
Yeah.
And
started out in the stores too, just like
started out in the stores.
So
worked in the warehouse, worked with the previous buyer, and she left to move out of state, and Colleen just asked me to take her place.
I would think that would be a job, even if you go to school for merchandising or marketing or something of that sort. I would think that especially with this specialized sort of product that you all deal with, that would be something that you really do almost need to work into an apprentice for, wouldn't you say?
You do. I mean, even to work in the warehouse or the office, we don't hire people off of the street. There's so much information out there and so many toys and products to learn about. It's really difficult to bring someone in off of the street.
Because you have no idea how they're going to react to a meeting about butt plugs. I mean, you just need,
like everyone's going to giggle.
I mean, we laugh, we have a good time. Or if the fact that if my mother needs to have something explained to her, which is why I don't go to one of the meetings, because they're just sometimes I don't need to be there when things are explained to my mother.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't care if we've been doing this 35 years. Just some things I don't want to know.
You don't want to know how the depth and magnitude of her curiosity and or what she doesn't know.
Yeah. I mean, when I hear cackling on Thursday mornings, I know that my mother has just asked something or they've explained something. Right. Yeah,
it's fun. It's always interesting to have a 74-year-old DVD buyer in our meetings. Porn DVD buyer.
Well, at some point, though, Colleen, this is a question I don't think that's ever come up with regard to the fantasy gift stores. At some point, everybody, and you have an amazing longevity with your employees. They come and they stay for many, many years and work different positions. That sounds funny. There. But at some point they're all brand new. So how do you decide and make that call if somebody is really going to make it and be able to handle this?
Well, usually they've spent quite a number of years in the stores. And if you can
as shoppers,
as a part-time clerk or a full-time person, and at that point we've worked with them for quite a number of years, and we know that they can handle customers, and they can handle and they're curious, and they're asking questions about us versus just showing up and punching the clock and not stealing. I mean, these are important things,
very important,
but there is also, but they're just a general. Curiosity about whatever it is that you're selling, and that doesn't change in any business.
Yeah. And so, okay. Well, I always wondered about that. And I just realized I sent you guys the wrong sheet. I sent you the long sheet instead of the short sheet. What a crack up. But that's all right. I'm going to toss everything to you. So I'm the only one that has a little outline. So just real quick, we were talking about reservations before we came in, and we got to dive into the news here pretty soon. But we've got Jessica Drake coming into your store on June 13th, and I know that you've got signups.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a couple different places you can go. There's the Facebook page
Has
or
the
a blog
event.
has the event or blog. You can just email us at customerservice@fantasygifts.com and say that you're planning on being there. As in this day and age, lots of people's or maybes or this or that, and we know that a lot of people also don't want to have their face and their Facebook name attached to they're going, even though they
To an
want to
event.
go to an
Right.
event. So you can email us too at
Yep,
customer
that's
service.
completely private. We do nothing with your email. So just email Sarah over at customer service at fantasygifts.com and say how many people you're bringing, and we'll save a spot for you.
Okay, let's give that email address out specifically.
Customer service at fantasygifts.com.
Okay.
And there's on our website there's a contact us and an email, but we're just checking that today because one of them's working, one of them's not, and we're switching over providers. So just straight email customer service at fantasygifts.com if you want to RSVP.
Perfect. And that'll be a really interesting event. I am very intrigued with the idea of hearing someone like Jessica Drake speak. I mean, she had this, really storied career, if you will, in adult films, and now she's switched over into something completely different. So it'd be fun just to kind of catch her presence and see what she's like.
She's a super sweet girl. I've actually talked to her quite a few times, and she's very down to earth. You would never know if you just ran into her that she was a former adult star.
Yeah, not a diva.
No, not at all. Super nice, and I think very informative, and she'll have a lot of interesting things to say for sure.
And she speaks from experience, so that's good.
Yeah.
That's always good. Okay, so starting out today, I'd like to take you guys over to Kentucky, which ironically is where Colleen Bertino was born.
You remember
weirdly.
that? Yes. Yeah, I was born in Kentucky.
Oh.
I mean, I only lived there for like 9 months, but it might be why, I like bluegrass music. Maybe it was in the water.
You think
I
so?
don't know,
Blood.
during the whole gestation period and all like that. Yeah.
Why, did your dad have a job transfer or something?
Yeah, he worked for an employment agency, and that's
Oh.
where they sent him. So he would set up offices and then move around. So
Got it.
it's on my passport, and it's just very weird because when I was doing a lot of stuff for adoption and doing some other things, and you have to call down to Kentucky to get your official birth certificate, it was like, you don't sound like you're from Kentucky. And if I could do a Kentucky accent, I would, but I suck at accents. But it was always entertaining. I'm like, yes, I was born there.
And that's just about it. Have you
Yeah.
been back at all?
No, never even. I don't even think we drove through on a trip down to New Orleans. I don't remember. If it was just driving through.
Yeah, I've never stopped there, but I've driven through. It's very pretty.
It is
Just
pretty.
FYI.
It's beautiful.
So in Kentucky, though, I regret to inform you that something very bad happened, and this is one of those stories where you're like, "Really, you guys? Really?" Couple is having sex in a car and they die, and it's because they left it running with the windows up, and they died of carbon monoxide poisoning.
So they had a bad exhaust.
We pretty much, and it was killer sex. I mean,
awful.
so if you're going to be enjoying, your car, don't do it with the car running. Okay, that's our naughty little
crack a window.
crack a window and gas mask. Much, I'm sure we've got something like that at the
I
stores,
mean,
right?
that would be well, I mean, if you're going to go, I mean, doing something, with someone you love, with love. There's a whole bunch of stuff there, yeah.
Yeah,
But wow.
I know. Let that one sink in for
that's
just a
gotta.
minute.
I mean, obviously it went out in the news, but I wonder if you put that in the obituary. I mean, condolences to the family.
yes,
But
and they were
doing what
both
they
parents,
love.
by the way.
But you do know that they were in love.
Well, okay.
I mean, yeah.
Or at
I guess-
lust,
yeah.
at the very
Lust,
least.
yes.
Which they're both not unpleasant, right?
No.
So
Right.
yeah. So next up, this one absolutely cracked me up because there's pictures of it, and there's pictures of this next one. I mean, and they're funny pictures. So like everybody, all of you from Minnesota in particular, picture the bridges, like from Hastings to Prescott has a really cool lift bridge, so that the barges, anywhere along the Mississippi, they're everywhere. And those are big bridges, and when they lift those things up, it's really, really fun to watch, right? Well, this might have been fun or not fun, depending on, how you feel about certain things. Dude in Fort Lauderdale was swimming and crawled naked, I might add, and crawls up, underneath the lift bridge. And it's just completely papered with no trespassing, do not hang, do not, whatever. But he was going to come up onto the bridge, whatever. But it started lifting and he's hanging on and he had no clothes on. And first responders had to come get him off the lift bridge. So you guys definitely look this up. I know huffing to
check that out.
Okay, first
We've
of all,
gotta
once
put this
again,
up.
it's in Florida.
We've got to
Which
put
is
this
just-
up.
Yeah, why are all these stories from Florida?
And I'm
What
like,
is up with
I
that?
don't. There are alligators and things in Florida. I don't know if I want to go swimming in Florida, nor, mind you, do I want to go swimming nude in Florida, and nor do I want to be dangling in all any courses off of a bridge. But at least he was
He was
safe.
dangling
He
in
was
so
safe.
many ways.
Yes.
Lots of things were
And
dangling.
then, someone dials 911 and says there's a naked guy on the bridge. And do they do rock, paper, scissors to find out which first responders have to show up?
Yeah. In that case, who's going to go get... I got a naked guy last week. It's so your turn.
There's no way that those conversations do not happen. And I know it just... Because you have to have a sense... I mean, if you're going to do something where you're going to find... You can find really bad things. You have to have a pretty interesting sense of humor. So there's no way that they were not doing that.
Oh yeah, talk to an EMT sometime. They have the best stories ever, or not. But if the person lives, I guess it's okay to giggle, right? But
Definitely.
Yeah.
we've got to have our web genius Megan post a couple of these photos up on the Great Northern
she's got this
Sexcast.
list.
Okay, good, because that one is hysterical. I mean, there is, you see him like crouching and kind of trying to hide up under a little thing, kind of like a little rodent in one of them. And then he's swinging from. I mean, it's just classic.
That's awesome.
Oh, good times. Yeah, it's fun to run across.
What goes through people's minds? I just don't understand.
I don't know.
I ran into my garage door this weekend, so I can't not
Backing up or what?
Yeah,
You backed into it?
Yeah, I backed into it because I'm short, and I didn't notice that the garage door didn't open all the way because I walked right under it, and my roof rack hit it, and I snapped it.
Okay.
Brand new car. So I'm not saying that stupidity doesn't happen, but I was not nude while it was happening.
If I'm stupid, I'm generally clothed. That's true. I tend to be able to keep my wits about me when I'm undressed. I'm unclear as to why that is. But, it's just since you brought up the garage thing, I have to tell you what happened to me. I had a freak accident in my garage of my house. This is a few years back. I had come home from like walking my dog, and I'd taken him down to a trail. It's like 5:00 in the afternoon, and I swear that I was stone cold sober when this happened. Pulled in my garage, stopped. Could swear I put my car in park, and my car lurched forward, like out from under me, and went through the back of my garage. Okay. And that I've never been so utterly and completely stunned in my life. They think maybe the car mat caught the gas pedal or something like that. But I mean, when you had absolutely nothing to do with it, I obviously had something to do with it. I was the only one driving. Henry was in the back. But I mean, it was, went right through the back of the garage. And what was hilarious was the insurance adjuster came out, and she was so very, very, very nice. But she couldn't believe how much damage there was to the house and how little there was to the actual car. So I mean, I literally popped out the entire. I mean, and the neighbors, and the neighbors there have lived there since 1953. Nick and Mabel, and they still live there, and they're in their like 90s, and they always sit at the window, which would have been trained right. And I actually called to see if I'd killed either of them, because can you just imagine watching that happen? I mean, boom, the house explodes. I'm sorry, I digress there.
No, yeah, but see, once again, fully clothed.
Fully clothed.
Fully
Clothed, absolutely.
Yes.
This guy was clothed when his girlfriend sent the cops to check on him in Milwaukee. Hadn't heard from him in 2 days, knew something was wrong. They went, got no answer, busted in there, found him cold, non-responsive, and like colorless type of thing. Didn't do anything. They just shipped him in a body bag and took him to the morgue. And just as they were about ready to get started doing things, which, by the way, if you happen to be alive when they start an autopsy, it'll kill you. There's this Y thing that they do that's really nasty. Thank God he woke up, like right then and there. And they shipped him, well, not totally awake, but they realized that he was in fact alive, and they shipped him to intensive care. There hasn't been an update on his condition, but years ago, I believe this story, and it's a Reuters story, so it's not, weird news, FARC or something like that. There was a story out of Egypt a few years ago where a guy had been thought to have been drowned and taken to the morgue, and his body temperature had slowed to, or lowered to a point to where everything slowed down to where it was undetectable, and he came to in the morgue and damn near gave a heart attack to one of the attendants.
Could you imagine?
No, yeah, it would be. I can understand how that would be made, but you haven't seen anyone for 2 days. I mean, oh my God. I mean, I hope the guy's okay. There isn't any more going on. But how are you unresponsive for 2 days?
I don't know. I think that was an Alfred Hitchcock Presents years ago.
Yeah.
But I think he went through with the autopsy. That's scary.
Oh my God.
I don't know how that happened.
If they ever have to do that to me, I hope I am absolutely 100% all the way dead.
Yep.
Or unconscious.
Yeah, for sure. So, did you guys hear about the German 64-year-old woman who, 65 actually, who just had quadruplets?
I did read a little bit about that because I remember hearing about it like a few months ago when she had announced that she was pregnant. And, part of me goes, and I have to admit, when I hear about a 65-year-old father, I'm too, because I'm like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And, and are you depriving these? You could be a parent at 21 and then get hit by a car and then your kid doesn't know you. But you know when you're 65 that you're not going to be around for a large portion of your child's life. And I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around that. I mean, I started parenthood late, but not that late.
No, not really.
I mean, it's very weird. And then just the physical. I mean,
yeah.
But I guess the kids are okay, and she's got kids that are already from 1 to 20 something or whatever.
She's had 13 kids. She had 13 kids already and 7 grandchildren. I think she's like one of those collectors like that chick out in the Octomom.
Yeah.
What was her name?
Yeah, that's
I don't know. They always called her Octomom.
I know. I can't remember her name.
Suleiman?
Something Russian sound. Yeah.
Yeah.
Natalie Suleiman or something like that.
yeah. That's. I mean, once again, just because you can,
I know.
doesn't mean that you should. I mean, then again, that's if you're going to go with choice, you got to some extent, that was her choice to do that. She
I know.
to be a mom, but I have to admit, at least it freaks me out as much as when 65-year-olds and 70-year-olds, become parents.
Yeah.
Is there a responsibility with the fertility clinics though to not?
I think
these things?
I mean, I don't think there's a law at any point made yet, because that sucker would go to the Supreme Court to be sure. But I would ethically think that a doctor would say, I choose not to perform this in my office, practice, et cetera. But yeah, this was done by, there was fertility treatment involved. And here's the thing though, they were all delivered by C-section, and they were all born at 26 weeks. So that's serious.
Quads, yes.
That's seriously premature. I know, but think about the strain on the insurance or healthcare system that caring for those babies. No offense, I hope the little buggers are okay. But I mean, you knew that they were going to be issues. And why does everybody else have to pay for that in one form or another? That's what bothers me when she had the choice.
Exactly.
I don't know. That just gets me. So anyway, okay, have some of that. Have you guys, this is another picture, Megan, we got to put up. Did you see the picture of the kangaroo that moved into it's right by a golf course in Brisbane? Did you see this?
I did not see this yet.
He literally has a ripped chest, like one of, I don't know, The Rock or something. I mean, just like cut. And that is not typical for a kangaroo. And the picture is hysterical. Well, I mean, they just kind of, sort of kangaroo-y.
Meet Monday, Megan.
It's so funny. I mean, and everybody's terrified of him. This thing is 6'5" and weighs about 210 pounds. They don't know that completely for sure because everybody's too afraid to get close to him. Can you imagine that? No. Oh, Colleen's Googling.
Oh, yeah.
Colleen is Googling. Yeah, try that.
Yeah, there you go. Ripped kangaroo.
Did you see it before?
Yeah, no.
Now? Isn't that weird? It literally looks...
Oh, that's just freaky.
And he's huge.
Okay, well, then again, everything in Australia wants to kill you anyway, so... I mean, they have spider storms and, oh my God.
Spider storm.
Yeah. When they're just right, you can have them here too, but not as bad as in Australia, and it's really creepy. But the little tiny spiders will do a strand of the silk, and then the wind picks them up, and then they all go through the air, and that's how they get to their new spaces. But if you have hundreds of millions of these things all going in one area, it's like raining freaking spiders. Don't Google it.
No, I do not want to Google it because I am one of those. I am firmly planted in that camp of people that are terrified of spiders. How are you guys on that?
Okay.
I am not. I despise centipedes more.
Okay.
And if the spider is outdoors in its domain, that's fine. once the spider has made it into my domain, like going across my footboard on my bed, I will in fact take my remote control and beat the shit out of it like some sort of, crazed human being. Mind you, all I would have had to do was take a tissue and go squish, but no.
No. That's too much contact.
It was...
That's too
I'm
much.
just thinking that if there was any sort of video of this, that this would have more hits because I went insane. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't even that big, but it was a moving spider in my room and it was going to die.
Yeah.
And I know that they're good. I know everything about it. And if they're outside, they're not, near the doors. There's been the ones with the big nasty ones that go in the flowers and, and I'm like, fine, you're in your space.
Yeah,
but you're not going to be in mine.
See, and I'm so far beyond. I mean, if I see them, I scream and run because I'll do anything not to touch one, even if it's outside. But yeah, man, I always have an exterminator. I'm on a regular. I don't care how many chemicals are in there. I don't want to see one. I don't want to see a part of one. I don't want to see a dead one. But I actually listened to spider sex sounds this morning.
Oh my God.
I swear to God. I swear to God. They actually, there was the University of Cincinnati. Why they just chose to study this.
Weird.
Please, can we cure cancer?
Yeah.
I really don't need to hear spiders getting off, but okay. Anyway, I listened though. It made me click. So, anyway, it is at an audible level to humans. And they have two different versions. They have the come hither sound, and then they have the we're in the middle of it sound. And they're weirdly, the I want it sound is a lot more raucous than when they're actually going on. The one when they're actually going on is like kind of like,
strange.
it is very strange, but the other one makes more noises. They don't hear. So there's no spidery ears, I guess. But apparently this is designed to when they're standing on something like a leaf. Now, this is not effective on a hard surface.
Okay.
The scientists, they went very far to make sure that they researched all the angles here.
A lot of research.
A lot of
on
research.
spider sex.
But they're on a leaf, and theoretically they make this sound and it vibrates so that the female can feel it and go, oh, okay. I'm up. I'll hook up.
Over here. Yeah, I need to go over here.
Yeah, it's like the
where I
spider-
am, there is no fun. Over there is the fun. Okay.
Spider vibrator. I don't know. Spider Tinder. I'm not sure. Something like that. Okay. Finally, our last news story today before we get into Colleen, you came up with some really good stuff for the discussion today. This guy in Oregon, and this is so typical of how they're trying to really do everything they can to keep the movement to legalize marijuana, quashed to the extent that they can. It just became legal in Oregon. So a town council says, well, we're going to ban the smell of marijuana. So even though it's legal, you can be fined up to $500 if somebody complains that they smell marijuana coming from your property.
That's terrible.
It's legal.
It's
So,
legal.
I mean, is that just not your typical political BS maneuver right there?
Yeah, it's just throwing up roadblocks. Anything. There's it might work. I don't know. I'm assuming that just because something is stupid doesn't mean it can't be a law.
Oh, right.
we know that one.
Yeah. And so this guy, let me just read you the statement because it cracked me completely up. It was with grief Thursday when I read in the East Oregonian that the Pendleton City Council took the time to pass an amendment to the city's nuisance ordinance banning marijuana odor. Clearly, there's been no issue of greater importance facing the city. Now that this important work has been completed, I hope that the council will move on restricting other offensive smells that plague our community, namely farts. And he submitted it.
Oh, I love a
Why
smart
not?
ass.
Yeah,
I do too.
I know, yeah.
And he's eloquent.
Yes. Very nice.
Really good snark. So, do you guys think it'll ever get legalized here in Minnesota?
I think there'll be a tipping point, like anything else.
I do too.
Kind of like gay marriage.
They're gonna figure out. I mean, in the few states where it starts, and then there tends to be a landslide after that. Because when they're realizing, that the resources that are being used to punish it, incarcerate people, the crime that it commits, all of those sort of things.
All the tax money they can make on it.
Yeah, it will go, it'll go the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting because, I mean, this fight, I mean, I think that the same-sex marriage fight was a real interesting, like that definitely had a tipping point. And so I think that this could be really interesting, and I really want to know what it's going to do to the cartels eventually, I mean, hopefully it'll declaw them.
Yeah. I mean, just the violence that is around, the illegal drug trade. I mean, the same thing that happened during Prohibition. I mean, it simply doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they just know that, but it's, they finally got a few states to say, yeah, we're going to do this. I mean, politically, and then they realize that, the world isn't going to fall apart. Yes. Are some people going to do dumb things? Well, people do dumb things.
Yeah. Clearly.
And it's still pretty expensive. I saw something online
It's
about
gonna
it.
be expensive.
It's still somewhere between $200 and $300 an ounce or something like that. It's not, but it is illegally too. There was a big. We have to search for that when you're talking about. They rated the cost of pot in like all 50 states.
It's gone up since college.
No, I'm going to show my ignorance here. Like, okay, when you say $200 to $300 an ounce somewhere, is that what you just said?
Yeah, that's what it said in the like. It was NPR or someone like that. Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, how much is an ounce? Like, how is that a lot?
No idea.
I mean, how much do you need to like? How much is like if somebody just?
That's a lot.
Is it a lot?
It would
Okay.
take a long time
Yeah.
to smoke an ounce.
Okay. Okay. Well, then maybe it's not as expensive. I mean, look at how much cigarettes cost because they keep driving that up with taxes, trying to get people to quit smoking. So
Think about how much an ounce of booze costs. I mean,
Yeah.
$12 to get a cocktail, and that's just practically standard before you get like fancy now if you're downtown.
Have you ever gone to Prohibition and had the martinis with the dry ice in them?
No, but I want to.
Gotta go get one. You got it. They have them in all different flavors or whatever. But it's so much fun to be up there at night and have. You've been to Prohibition, right?
Actually, I haven't.
Top of the fauché, okay, and it's just a cool bar anyway. But you're sitting there with something, and you just want to either A, cast a spell, or B, just like sit there and get a facial. I don't know. It's the coolest thing. You got to go get one. Prohibition, top of the fauché. All right, guys. So, Colleen, tell me about you. I mean, I read this article and I absolutely loved it. Tell me how you came across this.
One, I don't sleep very well, so I'm constantly just finding things on the web to read, and it was an article about a gentleman in New York who is a
He's an educator.
He's an educator. He's a therapist, but he's realizing that it's not just teenagers that don't know anything about sex. Or in relationships. It's grown-ups.
Yeah.
So he will actually take 2 chairs and a sign into New York, Manhattan's Union Square Park.
Okay.
He sets up 2 chairs and a sign and says "free advice."
Yeah, and it's kind of a cheesy looking sign. I have to admit, I saw the picture of it.
And he sits down, and people just talk to him, and they ask him anything. They just want to know. And I think the thing is they just want to know: am I normal? Am I crazy?
Right.
Am I the only person who's ever thought this, said this? And it's just
And
free.
sometimes it's easier talking to a complete stranger, I think, than people you know.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I mean, one of the gals that came in that they mentioned in the print version of the story, Colleen, that you sent over, sat down and said, I'm in this new relationship, but I'm also an escort. So what point in the relationship do I bring up the fact that I'm a sex worker?
Right away.
Yeah. I think there's certain things that you would that need to show up in the first or second date. Just going through there if you're talking and stuff like that. I mean, but this guy has credentials. I mean, he works at the UN. He does a bunch of different things. So it's not. I mean, I'm sure there's not too much he hasn't heard. And I just find that it's this is great. People just want to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And they also, he makes a comment later about somebody just wanting really somebody to talk to. Which I think is pretty interesting, and he's seen a lot. How he consults with the UN regarding refugees, about sexual health, and UN peacekeepers, and human trafficking, and things of that nature. He's also taught in classrooms. But what's so funny about his little setup there in New York is that you would never know that he is as lettered as he is, as far as what as
he's
accomplished.
Incredibly casual. Yeah. It's not like he's not wearing a suit sitting on this folding chair. He's just dude in a chair.
Yeah.
Chatting.
Yeah.
But, the thing is that we get the same thing. I mean, I get asked a lot of questions. All of my employees get asked a lot of questions. They want to know, how does this work? Why does this work? I had this happen. My doctor mentioned this. I had cancer and everything's right up. What's a good vibrator? I've had sexual reassignment surgery. I need dilators. I mean, we get questions all the time, and it just, and I just find out how much, even though you can Google almost anything.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just want to hear another human being say that this is okay, or here's my opinion, or just something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's reassuring.
For sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, and I mean, there's some other examples of some of the things that people have confided in him. And I mean, what an interesting way he's chosen to give back, right? I mean, to share and give those.
I mean, this is $100 an hour at least.
Oh,
if you go through there, and plus your copay,
and
then and he's just down there. He's doing, it's. I mean, that's public service.
It is. It really. It's pretty cool. And there was one other thing regarding that I wanted to mention to you. I know. When you guys get some of the more complicated questions, going back to what you were saying, Colleen, about in the stores, I mean, with really some of the bigger issues that people may have had, one of the most, I know Sarah, who works in customer service, has talked about people calling about things online before they order to get more information. And she's shared some of the things. But one of the other extremely knowledgeable people in the organization is Liz, who is periodically on the show. Do you guys ever get calls at the headquarters from the stores with, people saying, hey, I've got someone here and I really don't know, but I'm trying to find out for them? Does that come up?
Every once in a while, yeah. People do call in, and I think we give them to Liz a lot of times because
she's like an encyclopedia.
She is. She knows some things that no one should know.
Yeah. Well, what's handy too is that she remembers them too, because
she remembers.
I know that I have run across the information. This is what it's like when I was going to school too.
Yeah.
I can remember what book I saw it in, but I don't, but the recall there is pretty amazing. But she'll, ask questions, and when she's doing the home parties, people ask her questions there. So she's had, much like the folks in the stores, she was in the stores and now she's doing this. She just also gets asked more questions.
Yeah.
So, and she just remembers it.
A lot of the full-time employees that we have that work during the weekdays have been around for a long time. So they've learned many, many things over all of the years. So we don't get a lot of calls during the day. If it's someone new, maybe more so. The managers might get those calls like in the evening with the part-timers.
Oh, yeah. The on-call phone is not just for, someone who's unhappy with the fact that we won't take back a filled masturbator that they didn't like.
No.
But
that's a no.
That would be a big no.
No, that would be, there's, questions about the toys, or what would be good here, or what would be a better lube.
A woman use this product while she's pregnant, or so many different things. So, I mean, they're like put on the spot all the time.
Yeah. But
we'll find, we'll try and find out,
right?
Because I've told, that's what the seminars are for, when the product people come out and talk, and I tell them, if you don't know the answer, do not make it up.
Yeah, don't make it up.
No, not with this stuff.
No.
You're dealing with
we'll try and we'll
important parts.
We'll do our damnedest to figure it out if we don't already know it.
Right.
That's for sure. Yeah. So good shout out for Liz. It's so true. I mean, wind that one up, and anything you want to know, pretty much, you can find it, or she'll find out. So kind of on this same sex ed topic, I found this a while ago because it's something that I really think needs to be talked about, and it pops up in some way or another in the news every legislative session, probably in every state, but about, when they go into school funding and things like this, somebody's really opposed at how much or how little sex education is occurring in public schools, right? So, there's questions, and there's a guy over in New Zealand said, I want to share answers with them because I don't want them to get in trouble. But parents, the 12 different boys, the parents of these 12 boys, aged 13 through 14, thought they were there to talk about relationship and risks, and were surprised when they came home and said, "Do you know what bestiality is, Mom?"
Oh my God.
Okay, it's kind of funny, but not, but listen to his rationale. Listen to the teacher's rationale. He says, bestiality and child porn could get you in quite a number of years. They giggled and they were good kids. They're exposed to a lot of things, but I just didn't want them. I had caught them. This whole thing came up because I saw them giggling at a video of a boy trying to shag a goat. So you can't buy it honestly.
They've got to know that, and and if the parents don't understand that what their kids are looking at online, they're just naive. And those kids need to know that possessing that, or producing that, or even a picture of their own penis sent to somebody else is child porn. There are no gray areas, and so you need to know what's going on. I mean, and if your kid has a phone and you haven't told them not to take a picture of your dick and send it, then someone has to, because they're going to be in trouble if they're not. And I don't care how much someone's going to scream or yell. The technology makes it possible for a child to be a sex offender for sending a picture.
You know what? This reminds me of, Colleen, we've got to do our own Gr8 Nrthrn Sexcast list of things you have to tell kids now that we didn't have to get told. God, okay, we've got to...
No, I do occasionally, when there is groups of teenagers that I tend to be supervising over, I will occasionally just yell down there, there will be no nude pictures. And I said, watch. I mean, it's just, and they groan and they're embarrassed, and I don't care. Because they simply, I don't know what they're doing. Teenagers are lovely and stupid. I love them. They're great. But no one has all their brain cells functioning until somewhere in their mid-20s.
Yeah. And I don't think I got mine until 30, actually.
And these things, and these things, there are stories after story you can, of about a picture that goes around of someone, and the thing is, if the parents own that phone, they actually are in possession of child porn. God, you cannot do this. You cannot have a picture of underage, and the folks that are 15, 16, 17 have no idea. Yeah, and the parents have no idea that their kids are doing this and how legal it can be. Do you want to be marked a sex offender your entire life because you snapped a picture being silly when you were 15 years old?
Or worse yet, get your parents in grave trouble. This reminds me of...
And so, those parents can be as upset as they want, but that is just simply the reality that we live in, and they damned well better understand what's going on.
Well, this is a really good point, Colleen. It reminds me of what happened to Pete Townsend a couple of years back. Remember when he got himself into a sticky wicket for supposedly researching child porn, and it came out, and he was cleared that he had been abused, and he was looking for information and kind of by way of healing what had happened to him and getting past it, I think.
Yeah, you don't quite know what you're going to find when you're Googling things.
Right.
And it's like, oh my God. I've been very lucky. I've never run across anything that would freak me out. But if I did, I would certainly contact someone immediately if I ran across someone. I would call some sort of authority and go, okay, I ran across this. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't look like something that someone should know about.
I actually did have that happen to me one time. My dear boyfriend was using my computer, and he likes to look at the international news sites. And he, I don't know what he did, but he picked up a virus, which I didn't know at first was virus. He goes, Kelly, we got a problem. And I went over and looked at the screen, and this was an insidious bug. I think some sort of I can't think of the term of it, what it's called, somethingware. But it turns your webcam on, and it shows you your own face, okay, looking at your own computer, which is a very, very scary thing. And this warning comes up and says you have just not purchased, but something to do with child pornography. And if you don't, it's ransomware. That's what it's called, ransomware. Yep. And if you do not cough up X amount of dollars, you will be immediately turned into the authorities. I just about dropped my machine, got on the phone with the police immediately, and I... Now, mind you, this is when I still lived in Hastings. Hastings is a small town south of the Twin Cities. about 20,000 people, called over to the police station. And I didn't want to call 911 because I don't want anybody that's like, possibly being with a knife to their throat and having to wait behind me, you know? And they really actually don't want you to call the main number, which I've been told.
Noticed that.
And they're like, no, call 911. I'm like, seriously? But anyway, I call the desk and I'm trying to explain to this receptionist at the police station what's going on. I'm like, I need to talk to somebody. I'm terrified. I mean, I don't want to get in trouble. Maybe you guys need to come over here. I want to show you, I need to get this documented. They finally got me over to this detective, right? And he was really nice, but you could tell he's like, who is this nut job? But I finally said, sir, will you just make a note? Promise me that I called at this particular time. Can I get your name and badge number? And I kept it, right? And then I took it to computer tech and it wasn't anything else. But Colleen, it actually happened and I was pissing myself, may I just say.
I would be too. That's crazy.
Which is why I always find fascinating when people. I mean, I Google a lot of stuff. I search a lot of stuff. I'm looking at a lot of stuff that most people do not look at, and I have never run across anything inappropriate. So for the life of me, and this is like 20 years of the web now, or whatever, 15 years. I cannot figure out how. I mean, people really have to look for this for the most part when you're finding this stuff.
Yeah.
So when people say, I mean, like you said, there was the malware virus, but when people have like all of these images on their system and they say, I don't know how they got there, bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, I mean, I have never run across anything.
But do you guys think that there should be any sort of and I don't know, there must be some sort of a technical legal term for this. I guess I would call it some sort of mulligan law or mulligan provision for something like what you were saying before.
Yeah.
Like if your kid snaps at his own dick pic
But,
and the parents, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but now you need a politician to get brave enough to say that there are degrees of child pornography.
Yeah.
That's a tough
good
one.
luck with
Yeah,
that.
so it's never going to be. What's going to happen is there's going to be a successful suit, and something's going to get thrown out for being too vague, and then you're going to have to go back. But until it's taken out of a legislative body's hands by a judge, no one's going to have the common sense to do it straight because it will be used by their opponents.
Yeah, that's
that
true.
They're okay for that. I mean, I just know that immediately. So someone's going to have to go through a lot of money. Someone's going to have to. Hopefully, someone will do it pro bono because it's going to cost hundreds of $1,000s for someone to go in and say, "This law did not mean this." This is too broad. It's going to have to get tossed out, and then it will have to be redone. Yeah. And it would go through there. But that's how it's going to work out.
You're right. And you know what's ironic about that, Colleen, is that you can't get a politician to go do it because it's common sense for the reasons that you very eloquently just described. However, some crack lawyer, and God love him, will go through and do it, and then he or she will become a politician riding the coattails of this. Isn't that stupid how things work? But it's true.
Yeah. It just it's fascinating, but that's the system that we have set up, that they're just, that to some extent common sense will be twisted and used against you.
Okay. On that cheery note, let's go to Colorado for just a minute. And this is unbelievable. So Colorado has had the most successful teen pregnancy prevention program in the nation. Okay. They experienced a drop in teen births by nearly 40% in a 4-year span. So whatever they were doing was
amazing.
Working very well. And it set out. Okay. So then one Colorado lawmaker stepped up and stripped nearly $5 million in funds because they thought that it would make sex okay without the consequence of pregnancy.
Fucking moron.
And they killed the program, by the way.
Yeah. I'm just gonna swear on that one. And I don't.
You don't even want to talk about it?
Yeah. It's their entire. For the most part, this person is probably anti-choice. This person is probably all these things that they're probably abstinence only, which we know does not work. No matter how much they try, it simply doesn't work. And then so they have a proven program that reduces teen pregnancy, which is they supposedly want. And because there might be something positive about sex, like, by the way, sex is fun between consenting, respectful, people. Yeah. Oh, they need therapy.
I know.
They need lots and lots of therapy.
Well, let's wrap our show today with a little conversation about infidelity. What do you think?
sounds good.
Oh yeah.
Tara, are you up for this?
Let's do it.
Okay. No, there was a study, and I was kind of intrigued with what the results were and they conducted this because of the proliferation of hookup apps and sexting and sites like Ashley Madison and even the rotten people that go on Match that say they're single who aren't and things like that. So they wanted to know. They did a survey, and it was 33,000 adults.
Okay,
over
that's a fair
30
amount.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's like 17 people, and you're like, that's just someone dicking around.
right.
This
or even 2,000 doesn't do anything
No.
for me.
Okay.
No, this is 30. And here's what's even more impressive: 33,000 adults over a 30-year period. So they started these questions in 1972 and 2012. Okay, so they followed them and asked them about their attitudes on sexual norms. How cool is that? Okay. As through the times are changing, which I think that's really, really pretty neat. So the questions included things like, do you think it is wrong or not wrong if a man and woman have sex before marriage? What if they're in their early teens, 14 to 16 years old? That's another question. What about a married person having sex with someone other than spouse? What about sex between two same-sex adults? And they could answer things like always wrong, almost always wrong, wrong only sometimes, or not wrong at all. Okay, so here's what they found. People have become a lot more tolerant of premarital sex, adolescent sex, and same sex since 1972.
In other words, they are grounded in more reality. Okay.
But however, extramarital sex, defined as sex between a married person and someone other than his or her spouse, no, absolutely not. In fact, believe it or not, guys, people have actually become less okay with cheating over the years. 4% of the respondents said it was acceptable back in 1973. And that was 5.9% of men to 1.9% of women, but only 1% said the same thing in 2012. So that's a 75% drop in these people's attitudes towards whether or not marital infidelity is okay. What do you think of that?
I think that's interesting. I'm surprised the numbers were that much higher in the 70s.
Yeah.
Well, people had less of a choice of getting out of a marriage.
I suppose.
So possibly,
divorce was a little bit more taboo.
Listen to you just being all sage today.
No.
I mean, you
had
are.
less of a I read a lot. I don't sleep very much. I read a lot. You could get out of a marriage. It was less likely to get out. And now I think, okay, since you have the ability to get out, since there's no reason to cheat.
Or there's a lot of people who don't get married at all.
Don't get married at all. But you've made a commitment. I mean, and unless you're in an actual, am I pronouncing this right? Polyamory? Polyamorous relationship. And it is all set out. No, you get out and then you go find someone else.
No.
And I can understand why. I mean, because I don't think to some extent it's about the sex. It's about the lying.
Oh yeah. I mean, and how many times I don't know if you guys have ever had this conversation, but would it be worse if your partner, spouse, significant other, whatever, had a meaningless one-time fling, or they developed feelings? And everybody that I know always says, "Oh, feelings." Now we're really in trouble. They see the one as a trip and fall, possibly not everybody, but the other is something entirely different.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised actually that it was only like 4% back then, because it seems like there was a lot of cheating. Because you just couldn't get out. You just, you'd be separated, or you would do this or that, or you just didn't feel like you could do that. Or, or maybe there's, people are more, comfortable having a conversation, which was good one way. And now they're like, no, out. Well, yeah. Because it's the lying part of it, I think.
Oh, for sure. Are either of you guys Mad Men fans? Did you guys watch the series?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard good things.
No, I have to admit I got rid of my cable.
Right. Okay. Well, they just wrapped the series and it was absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend it for binge watching. But they show, I think they did a brilliant job at not only just the sets and making it look like, from 1960 when they started it to 1973 when they ended it. But they really took you through the the social patterns of what people were doing. And good Lord, in the 60s, it was like commonplace, at least at this chunk of society, which was Madison Avenue executives, just I mean, abundantly cheating, constantly.
Yeah, I think it was their, and to tell you the truth, it probably isn't that much different because you're talking about powerful people with money who think the rules don't apply to them.
Yeah.
And I would assume to some extent that it's going to apply to, I mean, obviously takes place more about men during the time. I mean, I can't believe, I've read plenty of articles since this was on about the show.
Yeah.
And I would assume that the same thing probably applies, even though there's a bit of a double standard. Once you get a certain amount of money and a certain amount of power, I think that the ego was probably about the same, male or female at that level.
Nowadays, I would agree with you. I did find it interesting that the writers managed to take one of the characters who was just as big of a cheater as any of the rest of the guys, had his apartment in the city, and his wife does dump him because he screwed someone that lived right down the block from their, where they lived in the country. And she's like, I just asked you to be discreet, and she lives down the street. Okay, we're done. So it's like she admits to knowing.
Oh yeah,
but in the series,
yes.
Oh for sure. But in the series finale. Or leading up to it anyway. He has
do you have a spoiler alert here?
Well,
you haven't,
no, this is a tiny. This is one of the smaller pieces. But leading up to the series finale, he's had this character that is now single, or at least separated, is having dinner with his brother, who's about to go out with his what do you call it, mistress.
Yes.
And he said, he starts lecturing. He says, I think it feels good until it doesn't. And then he ends up getting back with his wife at the end of the series, which I thought was uber cool and completely afoul of, of the, a lot of the other trends. Most everybody else had split up by then, but it was just pretty interesting.
So from what I understand, they allowed one character to have growth.
Well, supposedly.
Sounds like a lot of folks, didn't learn a lot on the show.
Well, I'm not now. That would be a spoiler alert. I'm not going to comment on that one. So don't forget, everybody. Jessica Drake, Gr8 Nrthrn Sexcast is on Facebook. Just go up to the search. Go to the page. We have been getting you guys a ton of Facebook activity lately.
Awesome.
It's really growing. So you can sign up for Jessica Drake, and if you're tell them one more time again, Tara, about if you don't want your to post, hi, I want to come hear the sex talk.
Just email customer service at fantasygifts.com and say that you want to go, and we'll save a spot for you and whoever you're bringing.
Okay.
And there's only a few more days left of our win a brand new rabbit vibrator.
Okay.
So you can also go to the Facebook Fantasy Gifts Facebook page and see the rules on that. So we'll be choosing someone on June 1st to win that.
Oh,
very exciting.
Well, I can't wait to see if that person wants to be publicly recognized or not. I hope so, because I want to congratulate whoever wins. Okay. Great job, everybody. We'll be back next week. We are almost to our silver, would it be our 25th episode, which is coming up next week. Hope everybody has a great last week of May.